We're seeing lower rates of scams and losses, and fraud is a real goal of ours. The biggest barrier to entry when it comes to crypto in America is the knowledge gap. People just don't get it. They're overwhelmed trying to learn it all, turned off by the hype and the jargon. And that's exactly what we're here to solve for.
Crypto has matured, and with TradFi companies offering the assets, it does make it easy for a lot of consumers. Accessibility is becoming easier with ETFs and all these blockchains.
That's exactly right.
This episode is brought to you by Go Mining. Go Mining is the all-in-one Bitcoin app that makes it simple and secure to earn, use, and benefit from Bitcoin every day. Bitcoin is the future of money, and Go Mining brings the future into the present, regardless of your country, income, or level of knowledge. The app brings together a growing ecosystem of Bitcoin products. This, of course, includes mining, which is the core of Go Mining's business. Traditional Bitcoin mining usually requires buying expensive equipment, managing electricity and maintenance, and setting up technical infrastructure. Go Mining removes this complexity. Instead of running hardware at home, users can access real mining infrastructure located in professional data centers through the app. Now, it's important to distinguish that Go Mining is not a cloud mining app. All mining power is backed by real equipment in their data centers. And you can verify this yourself directly in the app. They also offer what's called mining wars. So this is a competitive mining game where users can battle for greater rewards. So it gives you another option to be able to earn and makes it a bit fun as well. In addition, they offer a great crypto wallet, a built-in crypto wallet to store, deposit, withdraw, and convert supported assets directly in the app. And it's easy to manage your Go Mining initiatives within their dashboard, where you can view your rewards and all the mining activities that are taking place. And they also have a great academy that helps you to get started and answers all your questions with courses, guidelines, and much, much more. So you have to check out Go Mining. Go to the link in the description to learn more. Hey folks, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and joining me today is Ali Tager, who is the Vice President of External Affairs at the National Cryptocurrency Association, which is helping everyday Americans and businesses to understand and use crypto with confidence. Ali, great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, long time no see, right?
Feels like only yesterday.
For the audience, Ali and I met in person in New York. Was it, Ali, 3 weeks ago, was it?
Yeah, which actually, now that you say it, feels like a lifetime ago. But I will be back in New York very soon and look forward to seeing you in person.
Absolutely. So, Ali, tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from and how'd you make your way into the crypto industry?
Yeah, of course. Well, as you know, Tony, I am actually from Long Island, New York. So grew up not too far from you. And I make it back east pretty often, which I'm very fortunate about. But about a decade ago, I did trade coasts and I live in Los Angeles, California now. I'm so sorry to hear about the heat wave for all of my East Coast friends and for you as well. Because as you can see, I'm in a blazer because it is actually a balmy morning in California. But yeah, my professional background, I kind of grew up in the traditional public relations and communications agency world. So I actually started my career in healthcare, working for pharmaceutical companies on things like Parkinson's disease drugs. And it was there that I started working with patient advocates directly and really loved the end user focus, right? So much of what we do, no matter who you're working with, it's not always the case that you get to work directly with the people who are being impacted by your products and whose lives are really making a difference in. And so it's a little bit of a preamble of what brought me to the NCA, but I sort of went from healthcare to health tech and working with things like wearable devices, and then ultimately found myself purely in the technology space, working with consumer tech brands like Adobe and then fintech companies like PayPal. So that's a little bit of how I started to slowly inch my way towards crypto. I was working with PayPal in 2017 to launch their cryptocurrency wallet. And at the time, if you can imagine, almost a decade ago, it was even newer and seemingly scarier than it is now. And so I kind of dabbled since then, working a little bit in the AI space and getting a little bit into crypto as an individual investor myself. But it really wasn't until I began working with the NCA over the last 2 years that I fully understood the power of digital assets and what they can do for real people and businesses.
So, Ali, you are an OG if you were working with PayPal to develop their crypto wallet back in 2017, which, back then, many of these institutions didn't really want to touch crypto. So it's pretty incredible that you were doing that back then.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm always amazed when I meet people who've been in the space even longer than I have. I think that, working with Adobe in the AI space, working in biopharmaceuticals, I had a lot of experience seeing the early fear and confusion whenever a new innovation came along, be it a drug for a disease, be it even I was working with McDonald's and their digital team, and we launched at the time, if you can believe it, Uber Eats delivery, which was revolutionary in like 2014. But there's always this sort of uncertainty of I don't get it. What is it? How does it work? What does it mean for me with AI? Is it going to take over the world with crypto? Like, is it just magic happening behind the scenes? And so I think that has always been what really motivates and inspires me is like helping take these complex topics and make them feel really accessible for normal people like us. I think about where we're at with crypto right now, and I like to say the NCA isn't here for the crypto bros and the crypto pros. Like they know what they're doing, they get it. We're here for the Joes and the Schmoes, the normal people who were left behind by the early wave of crypto, who maybe think they've missed the boat or maybe think it's not for them. And we're here to show people actually this tool can be for everyone and anyone. And it's like learning any new skill, new tool, whatever it may be. You just got to start small, stay curious, and not overwhelm yourself.
Absolutely. And education and awareness is so important for the adoption of this technology. And, I I don't envy people who are not tech savvy and, they had to go through the internet phase, then the smartphone phase, and then computers, of course, and now digital currency and tokens and all these things running on a blockchain. It's like drinking from the fire hose with all these technologies plus AI as well.
It really is. And I think that, let's be honest, the crypto industry has not done ourselves many favors by sort of positioning it as this other thing. I think about digital assets as an evolution, not a revolution. And when you really break it down, it's not that dissimilar to anything else we already know and love, right? If you can use a Chase app, you can set up a PayPal or Venmo account, you can use the Coinbase account. I think that the tools are getting so much simpler and more seamless, and the user interfaces are getting much better that you don't need to be a tech wizard or a coder or developer or math genius to understand it. It really is sort of starting to feel much more familiar and integrate with the tools and systems we do already know and love, including banks, including PayPal, and so many other places.
Pardon the interruption. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm the host of the Thinking Crypto podcast. I wanted to ask you if you can please support the podcast by hitting the like button, subscribing if you haven't as yet. You can leave a comment below as well. And if you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, please be sure to follow and hit the 5-star rating. I'll let you get back to the content. Thank you so much. Yeah, to your point, crypto has matured, and with TradFi companies like your PayPals and the others coming in and offering the assets, it does make it easy for a lot of consumers. Now, there's still the education piece of what is a blockchain? Why are these tokens important? Why do they exist? But the accessibility is becoming easier with ETFs and all these.
That's exactly right. I actually just spoke at a digital asset conference in Dallas right before I saw you in New York, and it was an interesting mix of people who were there. It was mostly traditional financial advisors, and they were talking a lot about some of the things you just described. Tokenization of real world assets, tokenized stocks, ETFs. There was a lot of conversation at the event about how people may have crypto in their portfolios, and they might not even realize it. For example, if it's a part of your 401k or your pension fund. When I meet people in the wild who are like, I don't get crypto, I don't know what's in it, I say, oh, totally respect that. If I can be nosy, what's in your 401k? And people always have a 401k, but they almost never know what's in it. And so, we don't want to scare people by thinking you're investing in something that you don't have visibility into. It's more the point of we grew up with 401ks as an investment vehicle. And so it's sort of just expected that if you have a job that offers it, you're going to do it. But who's really doing the homework to dig into the portfolio specifics and where the investments are? And I think with crypto, we want people to be educated enough to understand what it is, how it works, where valuation comes from, the different role of different types of tokens, what it even means to invest in crypto. But they don't need to get so bogged down with the terminology and the jargon that they sort of lose the plot and, dismiss it because, again, it can feel a little bit overwhelming with all of the fun terminology we like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how is the NCA helping average Americans across the country to learn about crypto and blockchain tech? What are some of your initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things we're doing on this front. We really are laser focused on consumer education, starting to get a little bit more into B2B education and policymaker education as well, really meeting audiences wherever they are. If people are curious about crypto, we want to be that safe space to help them make sense of it. And so, three resources we've launched in the last year or so. The first is the Crypto Explained podcast that I host. Would love to get you on as a guest very soon as well. But it's really just me, explaining simply what crypto is, what blockchain is, what an ETF is, what a stablecoin is. Again, no jargon. We use very relatable analogies of, think about a blockchain like a railroad and think about the different cryptocurrencies as train cars that run on top of those railroads. We really want to help people understand how these concepts are not that dissimilar to other, again, concepts that they are much more familiar with. So we've got the podcast and new episodes come out every Wednesday on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But then we also have more interactive resources. So podcasts are great. We all love to listen in the car, listen on the go, right? But for people who want more practical experience, we've got sort of, I like to think of it as a Duolingo for crypto. These 101 courses that are little animated cartoons that guide you through a journey of Main Street USA, where you go to a bank vault to learn about crypto security. You go to a carnival to learn about volatility. And so really the idea is you could watch these modules and videos and take these quizzes with your whole family. It's meant to be at an age appropriate for anyone. If you're 10 years old, the goal is you should be able to fully understand all of our content, as should my 80-year-old mother, who, by the way, does review our content sometimes if I'm not sure if something is a little too tech savvy. And then last but not least, for people who are like, okay, they go through the quizzes, they think they get the basics, but maybe they're still nervous to try it. We get a lot of
Mm.
people who say, what if I click the wrong button and all my money goes away?
Right.
Which, by the way, probably never going to happen. I don't know in what world that could happen, but we understand the concern. And so we built a risk-free simulator. And it's on our website at nca.org. And it basically looks and behaves just like you are picking a crypto exchange, setting up your wallet, making your first crypto purchase, trading your coins, but it never connects to your real bank account. So it's really just practice in a very safe sandbox to build that confidence over time before you take your first step into crypto.
I love that. The simulator is such a great tool because, to your point, it just gives you that hands-on kind of real-world experience versus, hey, go. If I just verbally tell you or I send you an email, go do these 4 steps. But unless you've actually gone on a platform on a crypto exchange, it can be intimidating. So I love the simulator tool.
Awesome. I hope you use it. I hope your listeners do as well. And, this is obviously a crypto focused podcast. I imagine a lot of your listeners are in the crypto space. And when I have conversations with folks in the crypto space, I say, you might not need the NCA, but surely your friends, your families, your neighbors, your coworkers do, right? Like who in the crypto space has not encountered skeptics in the wild who think that we're either all scammers or being scammed? And those are the harmful stereotypes that we're really trying to break by education at scale.
Yeah, I've absolutely come across those stereotypes, and I have to spend time explaining. Here's the technology. yes, are there bad actors, in the crypto industry? Yes, but there's also bad actors in every other industry trying to take advantage of people. So, but to your point, like people are so comfortable in the existing realm of the traditional markets, they almost have blinders on to the bad things that happen. It's almost like, oh yeah, that happens. But if it happens in a new asset class or technology, it's like, oh my god, it becomes this hyper focused thing that becomes sensationalized. And I'm almost, many times I have to remind people like, hey, this is happening in the banking industry as well, right? It's like,
Yeah, I completely empathize with that. Again, I saw this with Adobe back in 2014, 2015, where all anybody knew about AI at the time was deep fakes. And that was, early bad actors that were using these tools for nefarious purposes to like Photoshop Obama's head, on the bodies of other people that were doing bad things. And that was just one mainstream example of that was, the story that you saw in the New York Times every day was deep fakes, deep fakes, deep fakes. That's all AI is. It's so scary, right? And the fear mongering. And now you can't open the New York Times, no disrespect, without a hit piece on crypto. And a lot of it is the same tired narratives we've heard of, exactly like you said, the bad actors, the fraudsters. I mean, the example that comes top of mind, I think, first for everyone with crypto is FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. And let's be honest, that was just traditional fraud. It happened to be a crypto company, but that was the same way, the methodology of fraud and, pulling the wool over the eyes of your investors and doing this sort of shell game. Like Bernie Madoff did the same thing. Like this is just the way that bad actors do exploit systems. And so our perspective is like fraudsters and scammers' greatest weakness is an informed public, people who are really plugged into the warning signs so that they can avoid them. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to help people navigate this space as safely and responsibly as possible.
absolutely. And I often, like to remind people too that Bernie Madoff did this in a regulated market, while Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX did it in an unregulated market, but not because of this technology. The regulators didn't act fast enough, and we're still trying to figure that out. And if the regulations were in place, they wouldn't be in the Bahamas; they would be here, tied into U.S. Regulatory geofences, so to speak. And that's where the regulators have to catch up. But we're getting there.
I think so as well. I certainly hope so. If we can manifest anything today, let's manifest that there is positive momentum. I think on the clarity front, I when the NCA first launched, the Genius Act hadn't even come to fruition, and so that was the first meaningful step towards more clear, smart rules of the road for digital assets. Obviously, that was very focused on stablecoins, whereas now clarity is more market structure broadly. And what we're hearing from consumers, from voters in America, is they want clear, smart guardrails and protections. They want to understand when, where, and how they can engage with crypto legally and responsibly. And I think there's still this also pervasive narrative that crypto is like the wild, wild west, and maybe the industry doesn't want regulation, which I think you and I know could not be further from the truth. The reality is the crypto industry is begging for regulation, and I really hope that we get some smart policies very soon so that more people have even greater confidence with how they can start embracing the technology.
Yeah, and look, in the 2024 election, we saw how that play out with crypto investors and voting according to their asset holdings, which was pretty incredible. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, where an asset class had such a big cohort of voters. And maybe I need to study more history, but that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, my boss, Stu Alderodi, the president of the NCA, actually just wrote a whole op-ed that ran in Real Clear Markets, I think earlier this week. And it was basically, there's been a lot of polling happening right now that's indicating that, only a fourth of Americans see crypto as sort of a single issue voting block, right? Like there's only a quarter of US adults who are holding digital assets who care about crypto and who care about this when it comes to election season. Rankin, and the op-ed was all about the fact that, like, hold on, a quarter of US adults, that's 67 million people. That is a lot of people. And our new research did find exactly that, that yes, 1 in 4 US adults are holding crypto. That is not fringe. That is not a novelty. That's pretty normal. And by the way, when we ran our big crypto survey last year to see how many US adults are holding crypto, it's the biggest annual study of crypto in the US because there's so much conflicting information and misinformation out there. So we decided let's do the biggest possible survey. So we surveyed 10,000 crypto holders. And last year we had to survey 55,000 people to get to the 10,000 holders, which is how we knew that around 1 in 5 were holding crypto. This year, we had to survey just less than 40,000 people, which is how we know that now 1 in 4 is holding crypto. That's a really big jump year over year, especially as you said, in a market that is still relatively unregulated. And, the headlines will have you believe that, again, this is all scammers, fraudsters, and fringe kind of hypey bros trying to go to the moon. And so I'm excited to run this report again next year because what if it's 1 in 3? If we keep increasing at this rate, I think it really is becoming increasingly mainstream. And I imagine we'll get to a place where it's so commonplace that we kind of stop talking about it. I hope you and I still get to do our podcast, but I think it'll become so boring and baked into everything that we do that the idea of crypto and blockchain probably won't even be such a hot topic anymore because it'll just be expected.
Yeah, it'll become the norm, kind of like the existing markets that have been around for a long time, where they're like, yeah, you don't have to second guess it or think about it. It's just like, yeah, it's in my portfolio.
Exactly. I was on an interesting call with somebody in the industry yesterday who made the point that, what we're seeing right now is traditional finance increasingly embracing digital assets, offering stable coins, offering access to crypto markets through things like tokenized stocks, ETFs, and so on. But actually their prediction, which I think is, I hadn't heard this before, but I think it makes a ton of sense, is that imagine crypto companies then start to offer traditional financial institution products like brokerage accounts. So I do think we're seeing the integration increasingly between sort of the TradFi and DeFi worlds, and I think it's super exciting. And that's actually one of the biggest unlocks for people who were previously crypto curious. The people who've come on chain this year, the new crypto holders, told us that one of the biggest driving forces and factors for them to start trying crypto was seeing banks and businesses start to embrace and integrate with digital assets.
Absolutely, because you get like the social proof of, well, firms I'm already banking with or investing with, whether it be Fidelity, BlackRock, JP Morgan, they're now adding crypto. It breaks down that barrier, maybe the lack of trust they may have had before.
Exactly. Even working with companies like PayPal, we're seeing this. Mai Zabanya, the head of crypto at PayPal, is on our advisory board. And so she and I have talked a lot about this. What does it mean for an everyday American who sees that you can now use crypto directly through your PayPal account? No need to download anything else. What does it mean when you go to the grocery store and you can tap and pay with crypto the same way you can with PayPal or with Zelle or whatever else it may be? So I think we're seeing it as an emerging option. It's not here to take down traditional systems. It's here to make them work a little smarter, a little safer, a little faster, a little more efficiently, help people keep more of their assets at their fingertips 24/7, help small businesses keep more of what they make and earn, help employees, be able to access their funds quicker anywhere around the world and without as many intermediaries taking a cut. And even nonprofits are opening up to crypto donations. We're working with Movember and the Giving Block and seeing how they're able to reach younger donors, especially digital natives who grew up with everything being digital and done by their phones. So digital assets are just kind of the natural next step in that. So I think that's to me what's most exciting. Of course, crypto is an investment vehicle, is a very popular use case, and is how most people know about it. But seeing how people are sending, spending, shopping, donating, paying, getting paid, and just seeing this as a quicker way to move value and gives you more ownership.
Absolutely. So if we double click on the demographics of crypto adoption in the United States, who are you seeing? Who's leading right now? Is it boomers, millennials, Gen Z? What can you share
This is
there?
actually my favorite question. So we let's also be real about the fact that when many people still picture crypto holders, they picture the bros, right? Younger, male, maybe living in a coastal city, working in tech or finance. Again, trying to get rich quick, go to the moon, buy a Lambo. No disrespect to those bros. Do you, whatever works for you. But what was really exciting from our newest survey that we found is that a third of crypto holders are women.
Mm,
And so the bro stereotype, I think, is finally starting to die off. But to your point about age, we expected to see younger generations driving the biggest adoption. And what we actually saw was that more crypto holders are over 55 years old than under 25 years old. And so I think what we're seeing year over year is an increase across pretty much every age demographic of more people coming on chain. But what's really unique to double click further is how they're using digital assets. So when we look at older generations, they are holding crypto more for saving, retirement, longer sort of store of value with the hope of financial gains. Younger generations, those digital natives, millennials and Gen Z, they're the ones that are really doing the most shopping, spending, sending, and donating with crypto. So actually, we partnered with PayPal to do some more research around shopping, gifting, and spending, merchant acceptance. And what we found was that when it comes to small businesses in particular, they're seeing an incredibly high demand from younger consumers to be able to pay with crypto at checkout.
mm. It's very interesting, and this is something I want to keep a track on because I'm very fascinated by different demographics and how they interact with technology and how they adapt to it. So it's very interesting, and it's great to hear that there's a lot more female crypto holders because, to your point, there's always been that uh, stigma of, oh, it's all guys, young guys, as you alluded to. But it's great to see that that's branching out and crypto's casting a wider net.
Yeah, and actually to that point, one of the other really interesting demographics that emerged from our survey is more blue collar workers are getting into crypto. So I think there's this sort of historical narrative that maybe crypto is just an asset for the super wealthy, or again, like people who have finance degrees or developers. But what we're seeing is construction workers and manufacturing workers are making up a larger and larger share of this. And I think it's really interesting to look at that in the context of what's happening across those industries in general, things like supply chain, manufacturing, yeah, construction, more like sort of like industries that have a lot of like manual labor involved. They're starting to integrate technology in how they work already and get smarter and be much more tech forward. And so seeing that this is now trickling to the individual level is really, really reassuring to us. And I think we do see crypto as sort of an opportunity to level the economic playing field. Crypto doesn't care what you look like. It doesn't care about your race, your gender, your profession, your income level. It really is for everyone. And seeing different people from different walks of life sort of open their eyes to that and start to be more open to this is really inspiring. And I think what gets me kind of out of bed every morning, we've been traveling all across the country for the last few years, meeting with the people and businesses who are using crypto in their everyday lives. Everyone from, we just met with a plumber, a master plumber in Arizona, to a small business construction owner in San Francisco, to a single mom in Texas who she was actually one of my biggest aha moments since I've been working in the crypto space, where the way she puts it, she was an unbanked middle class housewife in America. And she was in a relationship for 20 years. They had four kids together. And she thought everything was, 50-50, shared accounts, shared finances. And she went to the bank to pay the mortgage one day. And the bank teller couldn't accept her cash and told her that her husband had taken her name off of their shared bank account a decade prior. And she had no idea. And that's an example of, a traditional system failed her. And what she did was she taught herself how to trade crypto and she built herself a little nest egg so she was able to save up her own money and give herself financial sovereignty and freedom. And the way she puts it is that for the first time in her life, she had something that no one could take away from her. And I actually just talked to her this morning. So I'm so
Mm.
proud of her. She's like going to law school now, and her ex are divorced, and she's really found her confidence through mastering kind of digital assets and something that was seen as a boys' club.
Wow. Uh, such an incredible story of how the technology helped her in that situation. These are stories people need to hear of and understand the benefits of the technology. So that's really, really great. You mentioned May from PayPal is one of your advisors, if I'm not mistaken. Who else is a part of your partners, your team of partners and advisors?
Yeah, of course. So, in addition to my on our advisory board, we sort of focus on four core pillars when we think about where the NCA can make the greatest impact. So, utility is one of them. How is crypto being used in the real world? So that's why we work closely with my and PayPal. Also, safety, keeping people safe online, helping them spot scams. We have Joanne Barefoot, who's the head of the Alliance for Innovative Regulation, on our advisory board, and she shared with me some really incredible work that her team has done over the years to actually dig into the blockchain's data. We know that blockchain is a permanent public immutable ledger, right? You can kind of look for things if you know where to look and what you're looking for. And she partnered with the Canadian Mounties and law enforcement up in, I believe it was Washington State, to actually find patterns in blockchain transactions that ended up helping law enforcement catch a human trafficking ring. Incredible. And then a few more heavy hitters on our board. We've got Cam Harvey, Dr. Cam Harvey. He is a professor of finance and DeFi at Duke University, and he is our expert when it comes to education. So helping ensure that everything we're doing is very academic oriented, but still 100% accurate. But that we're making it simple and not like losing the nuance, if that makes sense, right? Because you're taking these really complex topics and you need to boil them down in very simplistic ways, but we never want to lose the intent of what we're trying to say or muddy the waters. And so Cam's been a great resource as we build out all of our educational content and programs. And last but certainly not least, on the policy front, we're apolitical, we're not lobbying, we're not trying to get out the vote, but we are educating policymakers on who their constituents are and how they're using crypto to help them make the most informed regulatory decisions. And so we have Chris Giancarlo, the former chairman of the CFTC, and I actually saw he was on your podcast recently, and he and I will be speaking actually with Karen, the former housewife that I mentioned, at Money 2020 this year on a panel. Karen goes by Crypto Mommy online, and as you probably know, Chris's book is Crypto Dad. So I'm moderating a discussion with the two of them. Crypto Dad meets Crypto Mommy, from the hill to the household, and it's going to talk about everything from policy to how that trickles down to how normal everyday people and parents are thinking about and using digital assets.
That's great. I love that. I'm gonna have to catch that panel, whether it be virtual or in person. I'll talk to you offline about the event and things like that. But that's really great.
Definitely would love to see you there. And if not, we'll talk in New York again soon.
But I love the initiatives you guys are doing because yeah, education is such a big piece of for adoption of this technology and for people to understand all the benefits. And are you planning to take this model, so to speak, and go beyond the United States to other countries to spread education as well?
That's a great question. We are a nationally focused organization. So as of now, no plans to expand beyond the US. But what we're actually doing right now is our first year, we launched last year. Our first year was very focused on widespread sort of mass awareness, reaching as many people as possible. Now that we've done that, we're starting to be able to go a little bit deeper and focus on more quality in addition to quantity storytelling. So, for example, of our big State of Crypto holder report that we do every year, we released the national numbers of, 67 million hold crypto, a third are women, more over 55, they're under 25. But what we're doing right now is actually looking at specific use cases and specific demographics. So, for example, lower income individuals, of course, as we talked about with crypto being this like leveler of the playing field economically, it's really important that lower income individuals you understand the power of this tool to break down those barriers and to give them kind of unparalleled access and inclusion in a way that they've never really had before. And so what we're doing is another one of our partners is Coinbase. And we've been working with Coinbase to help scale and evolve our educational resources, our Crypto 101 learning tools for Operation Hope. which you might be familiar. They are a nonprofit that's helping people break cycles of poverty, upskilling them with things like financial literacy tools. And so we just launched the courses with Operation Hope to their coaches and communities a few months ago. So excited to see how that's all going. But our goal is to continue to scale that and look at other maybe more vulnerable populations or more historically excluded populations, for example, older generations. So we know that, on the whole, older Americans are targeted at a higher rate for scams in general. However, what we found from our survey of crypto holders is that it's kind of happening across the board at more equal levels. And older folks actually aren't falling for the scams as much as maybe younger folks. And so, what that signals to me is they're curious but cautious. They're doing their homework, which is great, exactly what they should be doing. And they're being very careful before they make any moves, which is regardless of your age, regardless of your gender, regardless of anything about you, you always want to do that. And so, yeah, we're looking at where we can have the greatest impact. And I think where we plan to go even deeper is storytelling focused around safety. So we're going to be launching some 101 modules and courses more dedicated to safety and security. And then we're also looking at, as we've talked about, the traditional finance world and how are banks and asset managers and insurers and credit unions thinking about digital assets. Do they understand them? Are their customers asking about them? And figuring out how we can help them sort of get over any humps or barriers so that they can be really smart resources and allies for their clients as well.
Hmm. So, Ali, we kind of touched briefly on it earlier. Uh, we're on the cusp of potentially getting the Clarity Act passed. So, let's say that does happen this month or maybe later this year. Are you guys planning to launch any awareness campaigns around that? Hey, the United States has regulated crypto. This is a regulated asset class and technology. Here are the top hits of that regulation, and um, kind of spread awareness. Because I feel like if it does pass, majority of mainstream people might be like, huh, what is the Clarity Act?
Yeah, great question. Actually, when the Genius Act passed last year, we did a quick social post on it of just like, this is what happened and this is what it means for you. And that post actually went viral on Twitter.
Mm.
So to me, that and to us, that really demonstrated like there is a real need and appetite for this type of information to be broken down really simply and translated into human language, but also like the end user impact of what does it mean for me as an everyday person that's thinking about using crypto or using crypto, and in this case, stable coins. So short answer, yes. So, as policy momentum moves, we are here to help everyday Americans understand what it means for them, and so we're doing that, and we'll continue to do that on the Crypto Explained podcast, through our learning courses, through our research, through our real human storytelling, and then certainly through things like blogs, social media posts, really anywhere and everywhere. I think that the way that I've really been trying to boil down NCA to people we encounter in the wild for the first time is like, think of us as that translator. If you need help making sense of these topics or what is happening, the technology, the use cases, the policy momentum, the safety and security concerns, let us help you. We're not we have no skin in the game. We're not here to sell anything. We're agnostic to companies and protocols and tokens. Our goal is to just help as many people understand how they can benefit from this tool. And so, what success looks like is more people not just coming on chain and adopting crypto, but doing so safely and responsibly. So, at the same time, we're seeing lower increases or lower rates of scams and losses and fraud is a real goal of ours. So some of the content that we have coming soon in campaigns will be more geared towards that. And then also just confidence with your knowledge. The biggest barrier to entry when it comes to crypto in America is the knowledge gap. People just don't get it. And they're overwhelmed trying to learn it all, turned off by the hype and the jargon. And that's exactly what we're here to solve for. And we really took that data and insight to build everything that we've done, from the podcast and the courses to all of the content that we put on social, and just consumer awareness campaigns, ads, sort of the basic traditional methods. We really want to reach people wherever they're at a time when they probably have a lot of questions. And every time they look for answers, they just end up with more questions.
I love it. Love it, Ali. It's much, much needed. And maybe, Ali, in a couple of years, your name won't be National Crypto Association. It'll be Global Crypto Association because you'll be educating many people across the world.
I hope so. I love to travel, and so it always breaks my heart when I don't get to go to things like Paris Blockchain Week. But also, I think just being at getting to speak at the Bitcoin conference and consensus, and being on these global stages, U.S. hosted conferences, but global stages, global audiences. I'm often on panels or in conversations with people from different parts of the world, from the Cayman Islands to Venezuela to Mexico to even Switzerland to Sweden, all of these places. And I'm so blown away by the innovation that's happening around the world. And it's so interesting seeing how different countries are navigating the regulation around it. And, three-quarters of voters do want the US to become the crypto capital of the world. And so that
Mm.
means that we need to ensure that it's not, the innovation isn't moving offshore. And a lot of that has already started happening. And so I'm not trying to create FOMO for any policymakers out there and say, like, if we don't regulate, we're going to be in trouble. But the reality is we are a country that's known for innovation and for, like, let's be honest, having a good amount of funding. So it does boggle my mind a little bit that we've been so slow to pick up to take a stance on what policy should look like. But I will say that cross-border payments, remittances, Americans sending money back home, that is an incredibly popular use case. And I think there are entire countries where, 90% of people are on chain. And I think we will ultimately get there where it's kind of not an if, but a when. The genie's out of the bottle. These tools are here. More people are sort of waking up to what they can do for them. And so I think that this is, again, just going to become so normal and boring that you and I are going to need to look for new topics for our podcasts.
Yeah, well said. And fingers crossed, Ali, we can get that Clarity Act done this year. And I think that will kick off a wave of innovation and investment in this technology and create a lot of new jobs too, because this is a industry that has a lot of potential and that could benefit a lot of folks, right? Whether they're coders or even regardless if they're in marketing or if they're in a legal field, they can come work in the crypto industry.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't want to scoop myself here, but we're actually working on some research around job opportunities and economic impact in America created by crypto. So I hope to be able to share those numbers with you very soon. I have I can't say anything yet, but I've seen some early updates, and it's pretty impactful. So I think that the world is our oyster, and the opportunity is tremendous for people, for businesses. Really, I can't think of anyone that doesn't stand to benefit from being able to have more ownership and access over their, just not even money, just anything of value. It can be artwork, it can be livestock. We're working with a rancher in Wyoming who's tokenizing livestock on the blockchain. He told me yesterday he just added 700 new cows and it took 30 minutes, something that used to take weeks. And, if there's a disease outbreak, you can trace the source in seconds instead of days. And you can validate humane treatment claims of the beef you're eating and vaccines. I mean, this is real. It's not like we're not talking about the potential and the future. We're talking about what's happening in America today.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And we're seeing the race for moving a lot of data assets and other things on chain, on blockchains, of course. And TradFi, boy, they are in a race right now. Everybody's trying to go 24/7 to put assets on chain, as mentioned, real estate, gold, stocks, equities, money market funds, and much more. It's pretty incredible.
It really is. I think, when I have people ask me if I'm all in on crypto, I always answer the question by saying, like, do I have 100% of my investment portfolio and money in crypto? The answer is no. And again, I don't even necessarily recommend that. It's not my job. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do see crypto as an option and not, we never want to put all of our eggs in one basket, I think, just as a general rule of thumb. But do I believe that the future of everything is digital and will be tokenized? I genuinely do. We're already seeing it. It is a no-brainer. Why when if there's any industry that has instances of fraud, if you have supply chains to manage, if you have people who need to get paid around the world, I mean, the list is endless of the problems that this tech solution solves for. So it's really promising to see it deeper and deeper integrated with everything we already know and use and are familiar and comfortable with.
Absolutely. So, Ali, I got some wrap up questions here for you. First, are you an early bird or night owl?
Early bird, absolutely. I'm up with the sun and I'm sometimes asleep with the sun.
Window seat or aisle?
Window. Definitely want to curl up and not have to get up for the duration of the flight.
A text, email, or call?
Text for friends and family, email for work, and call if for anything really urgent or serious. Otherwise, I'm just going to send it to voicemail.
What's one company outside of crypto you admire?
Duolingo is absolutely on a pedestal in my mind forever. They took sort of a boring topic and category of literacy and made it so fun and engaging and incentivized it and gamified it to the point that I don't know anyone who's not talking about Duolingo. But as a communicator and marketer, I actually think their marketing is so culturally brilliant. I'll never forget when they partnered with Cat's Deli in New York when they launched their Yiddish course, and people who successfully completed the course or ordered in Yiddish, I believe it was, got free bagels and schmear. I mean, how smart and tapped in is an idea like that? I'm excited to hopefully launch some campaigns about crypto that are sort of incite the same reaction.
Love it. And if you could have dinner with any person, living or dead, who would it be?
I'm going to go Taylor Swift. She just got married. I don't know if it's Taylor Kelsey now, but I've grown up with her. I'm a 1989 gal, and I've always admired her as not just a masterful storyteller, but again, from as a communications perspective, she's always reclaimed her narrative, and she's never let anyone else tell her story for her. And she's also a master at time management. I don't know how many hours in the day she has to do all the things that she does.
And finally, best advice you've ever gotten?
I think golden rule, if something seems too good to be true, it is. This is true with everything from people or restaurant recommendations to deals and investment opportunities. I think that's something that I try to keep front and center for everything from my day job with crypto to how I live my personal life, and definitely encourage your listeners to keep that in mind as well, especially if they are new to crypto or anything.
Mm. Ali, absolute pleasure. Love what you and the folks at NCA are doing. And everyone, links will be in the description. Go check out the NCA's website and all the great resources they have. But thank you so much, Ali. And I'm sure we're going to be doing more of these interviews as you guys continue to get more data about crypto adoption and much more. But thank you so much.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Thank you, Tony. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't as yet. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please follow and leave a 5-star rating. Thank you so much.